So it says a research study randomly assigned participants into groups that were either given placebo or aspirin. The research study followed the participants for 12 years to see which one had strokes. We know what is the primary purpose of random assignment. So you want to remember that we have two different types of randomization. A random sample, which allows us to generalize the results back to the population. And then random assignment allows us to claim cause and effect. So B says to ensure that the groups are similar in all aspects, except for whether or not they took the aspirin, so that cause and effect conclusions can be made. So the correct answer is B. A says to ensure that a person doesn't know whether or not they're getting placebo. This is what we call blinding. So you can do that without random assignment, as long as the person doesn't know which type of pill that they're getting. C says to ensure that the study participants are representative of the larger population, so the results can be generalized. This would be from a random sample. And then D says all of the above. So the only correct answer is B. 2 says the website invites its visitors to voice their support or opposition for Obamacare. Over 2,000 people responded, with 73% opposed to Obamacare. The website announced that the majority of all Americans oppose Obamacare. I'm going to select the best answer below for why you think based on the data they collected. The website's announcement is either valid or invalid. So it says that it invited visitors. This indicates that these are what we call volunteers. So they basically wanted people to come and join in on their survey. So volunteers is not a random sample. And just a second ago, we talked about that you need a random sample to generalize the results back to the population. So 73% of the people of the 2,000 that they surveyed were against Obamacare. But since they're not a random sample, the results may not be able to be generalized to everybody. So we're going to say that the results aren't valid, and it's because the sample is not likely to be representative of the entire US population. C says that they're invalid because the sample size is too small. Well, the sample size doesn't really come into effect whether or not you can generalize the results back to the population. The sample size really doesn't come into play until we're trying to make an inference. 3 says researchers surveyed 1,000 randomly selected adults in the United States and asked them to report their income and number of containers they typically recycle in a week. A strong positive statistically significant correlation was found between income and the number of containers that adults reported typically recycling in a week. Can the researchers conclude that earning more money causes more recycling among US adults? So the key word here is cause, and we need random assignment. So since they didn't randomly assign each person how much money that they made, then the answer is no, because observational studies does not allow causation to be inferred. So no random assignment means it's an observational study, so therefore they can't claim cause and effect. And 4 says a researcher investigated the impact of a particular herbicide on fish. He randomly assigned 60 healthy fish to either be exposed or not exposed to the herbicide, with 30 fish in each group. The fish exposed to the herbicide showed higher levels on average of enzymes associated with the cancer. Suppose the difference in average enzyme level between the two groups of fish was determined not statistically significant. So not statistically significant means that they failed to reject the null hypothesis. And if you fail to reject the null hypothesis, then necessarily we're not saying that we have strong evidence in favor of the null hypothesis. We're saying that we have a lack of evidence in favor of the alternative. So the answer would be false. The researcher results demonstrate a strong evidence that the herbicide does not cause higher levels. So this would be our null hypothesis. And just because we fail to reject it doesn't necessarily mean that we're saying that it's true.